It was one of the most chilling cinematic showdowns in history. Gregory Peck, the noble hero, and Robert Mitchum, the terrifying villain. But behind the scenes of 1962's Cape Fear, a different kind of battle was brewing, one of professional jealousy and simmering resentment. For years, the two stars said little about each other, letting the tension on screen speak for itself. But what did Peck really think of the man many believed had stolen the show? When he finally opened up years later, his words revealed a deep professional wound. For decades, classic film fans have been fascinated by the relationship between Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum. On the surface, they were titans of the silver screen. Yet, they couldn't have been more different. Peck was the thoughtful, disciplined intellectual, famous for playing men of integrity like Atticus Finch. Mitchum, on the other hand, was a Hollywood bad boy, a rugged, unpredictable force of nature whose cool detachment made him one of the most compelling anti-heroes of his time. They came together for the thriller Cape Fear, pitting Peck's principled lawyer against Mitchum's sadistic ex-con, Max Cady. The result was electric, a masterclass in suspense that has terrified audiences for over 60 years. But off-screen, the story was far more complex. It wasn't until much later in life that Gregory Peck gave a rare and candid insight into his true feelings about Robert Mitchum. His words revealed a mix of admiration, frustration, and a professional grievance that had lingered for decades. This is the story of what really happened between two of Hollywood's greatest legends. By the early 1960s, Gregory Peck wasn't just a movie star. He was a Hollywood powerhouse. Through his production company, Melville Productions, he was taking control of his career, producing his own films like Porkchop Hill and The Big Country. He was part of a new wave of actors like Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas, who were shaping their own projects from the ground up. It was in this role as a producer that he came across the novel The Executioners by John D. MacDonald. It was a dark, gripping tale of a lawyer whose life becomes a living nightmare when an ex-convict he helped imprison returns for revenge. In the wake of Hitchcock's 1960 hit, Psycho, psychological thrillers were in high demand, and Peck saw the potential. He later said he wanted to create first-class professional entertainment intelligently done. Peck bought the rights, but found the title, The Executioners, to be a turn-off. While scouting locations, he spotted a place on a map that he felt was far more evocative, Cape Fear. For a director, he turned to J. Lee Thompson, with whom he'd just made the epic The Guns of Navarone. Peck was impressed with Thompson's ability to handle both large-scale action and intimate, character-driven moments, believing he was the ideal choice to balance the film's quiet dread with its explosive confrontations. Thompson, a student of Alfred Hitchcock, envisioned Cape Fear as a taut, black-and-white noir filled with unsettling camera angles and creeping shadows. He even hired key members of Hitchcock's own creative team, including editor George Tomasini and, crucially, composer Bernard Herrmann, whose chilling score for Psycho had redefined cinematic fear. With the director in place, only the most critical piece remained: casting the villain, Max Cady. Peck and Thompson knew the film's success hinged on finding an actor who could embody Cady's unique brand of evil. They quickly realized they didn't just need a character actor, they needed a star of equal magnitude to Peck himself. In their minds, only one man had the perfect combination of charisma and menace for the role: Robert Mitchum. Mitchum was the anti-Peck. While Peck was known for his professionalism, Mitchum cultivated a persona of effortless cool and indifference. He was a rebel who had done time on a chain gang in his youth and approached acting with a with or without a horse attitude. But beneath that nonchalant exterior was an actor capable of conveying a quiet, simmering danger that was utterly terrifying, as he'd proven in films like The Night of the Hunter. Max Cady needed to be both repulsive and magnetic, a monster, with what Mitchum himself called a snake-like charm. Peck and Thompson knew that Mitchum, with his brooding presence and dark reputation, was the perfect choice. The only problem? They had to convince him to take the part. When Gregory Peck and J. Lee Thompson first offered the Cape Fear script to Robert Mitchum, his answer was a firm no. He said he was exhausted and wasn't keen on playing another heavy, especially since the film's subject matter was so controversial for the time. The original novel involved the brutal rape of a young girl, and though the script had been altered to remove the word rape, the sinister sexual threat remained at the story's core. Katie's chilling line to Peck's character, "I got something planned for your wife and kid they ain't never gonna forget," left little doubt about his intentions. Wary of the controversy, Mitchum wanted nothing to do with it. He even suggested other actors like Jack Palance, but Peck and Thompson held their ground. They needed what Mitchum himself identified as Katie's defining trait, that snake-like charm. He understood Katie wasn't just a thug, he was a seducer who could smile while plotting horrific acts. In fact, Mitchum once admitted that on his first read, he was so taken with Katie's charisma that it wasn't until the film's wild finale that he realized Katie was the villain. After being rejected, Mitchum went home to Maryland, but Peck, as the EO, film's producer, wasn't giving up. He and Thompson sent a package to Mitchum's house containing a bouquet of flowers and a case of bourbon. According to Hollywood legend, Mitchum was awoken early one morning by the delivery. Amused by their persistence, he made a 6 a.m. phone call to Los Angeles with a simple message. "Okay, I've drunk your bourbon. I'm drunk. I'll do it." With that, Peck had his Max Katie. The casting was a masterstroke, setting up a dynamic that mirrored the characters themselves. Peck was the straight-arrow professional, always prepared. Mitchum was the nonchalant rebel, who famously had a photographic memory and often learned his lines just moments before a scene. This fundamental difference in their styles and personalities would soon ignite on set as the controlled world of Gregory Peck's Sam Bowden collided with the chaotic energy of Robert Mitchum's Max Cady. From the moment filming began, the set was charged with an unpredictable energy, most of it coming from Robert Mitchum. He didn't just play Max Cady, he became him. He warned director J. Lee Thompson from the start. "This part is a drunk, a rapist, and a violent man, and I live my parts." Thompson later recalled it was a clear warning that there would be some stormy passages during production, and Mitchum didn't disappoint. Mitchum's approach was visceral and immersive. Thompson rarely rehearsed his scenes, preferring to talk through the action and then let Mitchum loose to improvise. This created a genuine atmosphere of unease. Barry Chase, the actress who played the woman Katie assaults, admitted she was genuinely frightened of him, and Thompson had to stop filming at times because Mitchum was being so rough with her. The filming locations only amplified Mitchum's mood. Much of the movie was shot in Savannah, Georgia, a city where Mitchum had been arrested and put on a chain gang as a teen. The experience left him with a big chip on his shoulder, and his hostility toward his surroundings fed directly into his performance. Thompson recognized this raw anger was perfect for Max Cady and made no attempt to quell it. This intense immersion was a world away from Gregory Peck's disciplined style. Peck was not only the hero of the film, but also its producer, the one who had pushed to hire Mitchum. Now he watched as his co-star's electrifying performance began to dominate the film. The tension wasn't just stylistic, it became personal. Mitchum reportedly taunted Peck on set, mirroring the psychological war his character was waging against Sam Bowden. This dynamic peaked during the physically demanding fight scenes. During the final fight, Peck, in a moment of poor timing, accidentally punched Mitchum for real. Ever the professional in his own way, Mitchum finished the scene before collapsing in his trailer from the pain. He later quipped, "I don't feel sorry for anyone dumb enough who picks a fight with him." The danger wasn't one-sided. Polly Bergen, who played Peck's wife Peggy, suffered back injuries that plagued her for days after her brutal, largely improvised assault scene on the houseboat. At one point, Mitchum cut his hand, and with blood covering both of them, They continued the scene with such intensity that the crew had to physically step in and stop them. Throughout it all, Peck remained the stoic producer and star. He had wanted a powerful villain, and in Robert Mitchum, he had gotten more than he bargained for, planting the seeds of a professional resentment he would carry for years. Hollywood's golden age was built on stars, but behind the silver screen, some of the brightest lights were locked in bitter rivalries that would change their careers forever. The story of Peck and Mitchum is just one of many. What's your favorite classic Hollywood rivalry? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're enjoying this look behind the curtain of a classic film, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories from the dark side of Hollywood's golden age. For years after Cape Fear's release, Gregory Peck maintained a professional silence about his co-star. The film was a success, and Mitchum's chilling portrayal of Max Cady was hailed as a career-defining performance. Publicly, Peck was gracious, even reportedly saying, "It's Bob's picture, best performance he ever gave." After all, he had pursued Mitchum for the role, recognizing the film's success depended on the strength of its villain. But privately, a different story was unfolding. Peck, the producer, felt the film's balance had been lost. He believed director J. Lee Thompson had allowed the movie to tilt too heavily in Mitchum's favor, compromising the narrative equilibrium between hero and villain. But it was more than just an artistic critique. It was personal. Decades later, in a moment of rare candor, Peck finally revealed his true feelings. "I had given him the role, and had paid him a terrific amount of money," Peck stated, underlining the power dynamic he felt should have been respected. "It was obvious he had the better role. I thought he would understand that, but he apparently thought he acted me off the screen." There it was. It wasn't just about Mitchum giving a powerful performance. It was about the attitude that Peck felt came with it. In his view, Mitchum wasn't just stealing scenes, he was gloating. This was a professional slight that a man as proud as Gregory Peck could not forgive. He concluded with a quiet, damning verdict. "I didn't think highly of him for that." This revelation cast their on-set dynamic in a new light. From Peck's perspective, Mitchum's chaotic energy and taunts weren't dedication to the craft, but an expression of ego. Nearly 30 years later, this tension was reflected in Martin Scorsese's 1991 remake of Cape Fear. In a brilliant nod to the original, Scorsese invited both Peck and Mitchum to appear in cameo roles. Mitchum, the original Cady, was cast as a helpful police lieutenant. And in a delicious twist, Peck, the original hero, was cast as Cady's sleazy, manipulative lawyer. This role reversal highlighted the remake's moral ambiguity, where the lines between good and evil were intentionally blurred. But there was another fascinating detail about the casting. Whether by design or coincidence, Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum do not share a single scene. The silence that had defined their relationship for decades was now codified on screen, a visual representation of the rift that, it seemed, would never be fully repaired. The story of Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum on the set of Cape Fear is a powerful reminder that the dramas behind the camera are often just as compelling as the ones on screen. It was a clash of titans, a collision of two vastly different men whose opposing styles ignited one of the most memorable rivalries in cinema history. Peck, the dignified producer, set out to make a first-class thriller, and in doing so, he made a fateful choice. He and his director insisted on hiring Robert Mitchum, the one actor they knew could embody the chilling menace of Max Cady. What they got was a performance of such raw, unpredictable power that it threatened to overshadow everything else in the film, including Peck himself. Mitchum didn't just play the villain, he channeled a lifetime of rebellion into the role, creating a character so terrifyingly real he blurred the lines between actor and monster. His method was chaotic, dangerous, and, from Peck's point of view, deeply disrespectful. For decades, Peck harbored a quiet resentment, not just for being upstaged, but for what he saw as Mitchum's arrogance in believing he had acted him off the screen. It was a professional wound that never fully healed, a grievance so deep it was reflected in their careful separation in the remake nearly 30 years later. Yet, despite the personal animosity, Peck could never deny the brilliance of Mitchum's work. He knew that the very thing that caused him so much frustration, Mitchum's all-consuming performance, was also the key to the film's enduring power. It was a classic Hollywood paradox, a troubled production and a bitter rivalry that ultimately produced a masterpiece of suspense. Their conflict created a perfect storm of tension that has kept audiences on the edge of their seats for generations, and the chilling echo of their cinematic showdown remains as potent as ever.